Awesome. Wow. The Mustang Mood podcast is back. So excited to be here with the men's tennis coach. Man, this is exciting because we're live from the SMU Tennis Complex here on the beautiful campus of SMU in the Big D. And you are listening to the Mustang Mood podcast.
Yes, sir.
Heck yeah.
Welcome, everybody. Well, we have a very special guest today. We're here with Coach Chen of the men's tennis team. Welcome, Coach.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me, and I look forward to our conversation.
Yeah. So we're going to start off just getting to know more of your background in tennis, when you started playing and why, who were maybe some of your idols, favorite players growing up, and then what brought you into coaching.
Well, tennis was a game we played as a family, and it was something that I was excited to I kind of fell in love with it. My dad would play after work every single day, Monday through Friday, with his friends, and it was kind of like a little bit of exercise, and then we'd all race home for dinner. And I'd kind of then just dragged along a racket and started swinging at tennis balls. When my brother and I, we were both, probably 3, 4, 5 years old, and that was kind of the start of it. And really, it's become an amazing journey and something that we were able to do together. And I was never really the talented one. My brother, for sure, had a little bit more talent and natural skills, but I think I loved the game more. And I think what really is one of the other benchmarks for me is when I attended my first week of summer camps at the local university. I grew up in Santa Barbara, so that was at UCSB, and I attended the camps there, and it was just such a special 7 days. The other campers, both older and my age, were great to me. The staff, the coaches, the counselors were great to me, and I think, you fast forward, 10, 15, 20 years, and hopefully I've been able to do the same and share the game of tennis through camps, through tournaments, and through other venues as well.
That's awesome. Yeah. So it sounds like, talking with both these players, and then now with you started young. Is it super common, or are there some edge cases where people pick up a racket for the first time at 18 and then get really good at tennis, or is that kind of the outliers?
I think that's probably a little bit more of an outlier. I mean,
Okay.
there's that old common saying that, whatever you do and to be proficient in it, you've got to, spend X number of hours.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you just got to spend the time. There's a documentary. It's actually pretty well done. It's called 50,000 Tennis Balls. And the idea is that you need to hit 50,000 tennis balls before you even remotely become, somewhat competitive at that national or international level. But I think for me, one of the driving motives is to target players and student athletes who fit the school, who fit the campus, who fit the university, but really have some good values and first and foremost, really love the game of tennis.
Yeah. That's awesome. How many tennis balls do you think you've hit in your life?
Great
If
question.
you had to guess.
I've hit a lot. I know that, and I'm nowhere near the level of my players, and so it's just a game that I happen to really enjoy and become passionate about. But I think ultimately, I didn't really have some of the natural skill sets as some of my players or my younger brother. But I really did love the game, and I think that's kind of what happened. And really, after high school, I thought I had to choose between academics and my education and or college athletics. So I went to UCLA just as a normal student. And I think one of the other milestones for me was that I missed the game. And my first fall semester at UCLA, I didn't play any tennis. And finally, I got back involved with the game. I was a student manager, and that was back in January of 2001. So you take it to where it is now. I think that was really one of the times that I remember, because it was something that became evident to me that tennis was a huge part of my world.
And when would you say because I feel like I've heard stories just from other sports of people knew that guy was going to be a coach. Maybe he wasn't good enough to go pro, but you could tell he had coaching in him. When was that moment for you? When did you realize that this was something you were really talented at and could do for the rest of your life?
Well, let me clarify. I don't think I'm a very talented or, coach. I think I hopefully can be an inspiration and a mentor. Okay. Tennis is a very technical game, and I think coaches make impact in very different, in many ways. So, I think there are some coaches who are very technical, some are very tactical, some are very, and I think I try to put it all together and use life lessons. And if I can help raise and, these college athletes, if I can help them get to where they want to get to, I think the life skills will then translate on court. So, in some ways, I think I'm more of a cheerleader. I'm more of a support. I'm more of a third parent. I'm a friend when needed be. I'm a mentor when need be. So I think there's so many different definitions of being a coach. And I think I try to cover a lot more of it. I'm very organized. I'm very good at kind of managing the schedules. And I think another thing that I have to play a pretty significant role is the load that they have on their day-to-day schedules. For example, during final exam weeks and midterm weeks, I really, the tennis kind of gets diminished a little bit, or as concentrated as can be, because their mental capacity is all focused on school.
Right.
And I think to be able to become a good student athlete, which in turn, I think down the road when you graduate, you'll become very successful in life because of so many tremendous life skills. Managing that time and their load and their efforts has to be prioritized. So in some ways, I'm like a traffic cop, and I'm just managing where people are. And there are days I want the guys to practice 2, 3, 4 hours. There's some days I want the guys to practice 0 or as little as 20 to 30 minutes. So, I think it's just kind of managing everything, but really developing a positive relationship with the guys and with your coaching staff and the people you put around the players to have an impact.
Yeah, that's a real unique take as a coach. It's one of the most unique ones that I've heard, but it seems more like a life coach, even beyond just being just a tennis coach. Is kind of the role. Yeah,
no, I think that's a pretty accurate assessment, and again, I love the game of tennis. I really do. It's given me so much. And I think through this avenue, if I can help provide an opportunity for others, whether it's student athletes or a 5-year-old picking up tennis for the first time, or, someone playing adult tennis or pro tennis, that to help in one way or shape or form, and I think that's what we've tried to do here. This complex, the Styslinger Altec Tennis Complex, is truly one of the best, and we're very fortunate to call it home. But we've also opened up our doors and found ways to be very engaging in the community, not just the SMU community, but really the tennis world, and hopefully, in the state of Texas and around the country.
Yeah, so DFW is known as like a high school basketball, high school football, powerhouse. What's it like tennis-wise?
Well, I think the 3 or 4 strongest states for tennis in the country, certainly California, Florida, Texas, as well as some of the north, New York, New Jersey. I think there's a lot of good tennis up there, Charleston, South Carolina. But again, right here in the Metroplex, as well as the state of Texas, very strong. If you even look at just the national rankings from a college standpoint, you've got, probably 5 or 6 teams who will make the NCAA tournament. And right now we've got 2 of the top 3 teams in the country with TCU and Texas.
Yeah.
A&M is not so far behind, and then you add in all the other schools that we have in our region. I mean, it really is a strong presence in the state of Texas. So we have our work cut out for us, but it's also a tremendous challenge. Right now, we're preparing to host the National Indoor Championships, which will feature some of the best teams in the country. That's President's Day weekend. And, we're looking forward to putting on a great event, but also going up against the best teams in the country.
Yeah, so we wanted to now move on just a little bit to your journey to SMU. So you've been here since around 2018-ish. How did you end up here? Why did you choose to come here? Just want to hear a little bit more about that story.
Well, I ended up here because my phone rang, and a phone call came 24 hours after the NCAA championships finished in May of 2018. So that year it was held at Wake Forest.
Okay.
I was on the road at Wake Forest for almost 18 days because the NCAA's is a pretty long event when you factor in the team component, the singles championship, and the doubles championship.
Yeah.
So that year we happened to have a pretty darn good season. We lost in the final 4 of the team. We won the doubles. Marty Redlecki and Evan Zhu won the doubles. We also had another team in the final 4 doubles, and then Marty lost in the semis of singles. So it was a good run. I was ready for a nice 2-3 week break. summer break that I could kind of unwind and then just kind of start preparing for summer camps. And the very next morning, my phone rang. And I had just left the gym, so I remember this vividly. And next thing you know, for the better part of that day, I was on the phone with the athletic department and school and the campus and the leadership here. And it just had a really positive connection and feel. I ended up flying the red eye that night to get interviewed.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, no, that was something I really looked at him. I was like, if you guys are serious, I'm here. And I'll just, my wife and I took the red eye flight. We departed LAX at midnight. Landed at 5 a.m. I took a shower and freshened up and threw on a suit, and I spent the next 12 hours being interviewed.
Wow.
It also happened to be one of the hottest days I've ever experienced in Texas.
Oh, gosh.
I think it was like 109.
Oh, no.
Wow.
So by 9 a.m. I was sweating through the
Oh,
suit.
man.
And it was one of those things that it felt right.
Yeah.
I walked campus. I got to meet the other coaches and the staff and the leadership team and really have really a tremendous experience. And I think the alignment and the visions were there. And I even wrote I wrote some notes on the plane. This wasn't prepared, so I wrote the notes on my red-eye flight on basically a cocktail napkin. And I walked in, and that's kind of what I had on me because I really didn't have much time to prep. And it felt like the right opportunity. So my first day was officially June 6, 2018. I remember that day vividly, and it was somewhat surreal. The only challenging part was to tell my previous team that I was, after a very successful season and a tremendous run for so many years and a partnership I had with my mentor, the UCLA head coach, telling them that I was leaving. That was a little bit of a gut check moment.
Right.
But I knew it was all for the right reasons, and my wife and I have not looked back since then.
What's that interview process like? I mean, you said it was 12 hours. Like, what's the kind of stuff what made them like reach out to you? Did they talk about that at all or anything like that?
The interview process, on hindsight, was very similar to kind of me recruiting a student athlete.
Really, just on the other side of it.
Correct. You wine and dine. You show them around. You're kind of passed on from one person to the next, to one department to the other, to this, to that. I mean, and again, I look back at it now, and I met with other coaches. I met with other people in the staff, academics, compliance, you kind of name it. And you have this meeting with them, and you're kind of telling the story over and over and over again, and to try to feel and understand the best you can. But just like in any positive relationship, it's a two-way street.
Yep.
So not only are they interviewing me, I'm also trying to, in some sense, interviewing them to understand, do I feel that this is a right fit for myself and my family? And it was. And I think that was something that my wife and I really felt pretty instantly, that it was a positive fit. It was a place we felt we could start a new chapter in our life. And and really, Dallas has been incredible to us, and this SMU community has been amazing. And we've been able to really set some roots here. So that interview process, I think, is very similar to recruiting. And having gone through it, you look back and you remember kind of the moments, and you still talk with the people who were part of your interview process. And obviously those are relationships that you kind of build on, and you can also look back now and laugh at and joke about it. And in turn, I've been a part of others' recruiting and interview process. And I think just like in any industry, they talk about the 6 degrees of separation. Well, if you really narrow it down to the tennis field or the college athletics field, it's probably really 1 or 2 degrees of separation.
Yeah.
So, I think everyone's doing their homework on each other. Someone might have said a few positive things about me, which maybe led them to reach out to me. And, all I can hope for is that I've made an impact here, and hopefully the department has been excited about what I've been able to do.
I would think so. I think if I'm recalling it right, SMU's had a pretty good last few years. Like, we've been on the upswing.
Yes, it's been a journey, but I think every single year it's been more and more positive. But again, at the same time, it's something that you're always, the status quo changes. Here we are. My first season, we lost more in one season than I think I did at 5 years at my previous school combined.
Wow.
So actually taking...
Was that like a gut check for you?
You know what? I had to learn a few things. I had to learn how to lose. I had to learn how to change the schedule and alter that accordingly. But again, that was something that we needed to go through. And I think the most important thing that I was told by a mentor and a fellow head coach was, do it my way. Make sure that I own the process, not doing it like any other coach or someone else. Make sure that the decisions I made were something that I stood by. So
Yeah.
I think I did take a different route. For a couple years, we recruited heavily in our backyard. Our roster was larger than most tennis teams. I think that was a little bit unorthodox.
Yeah.
But I think, again, it was all for a reason. We needed to change the narrative. We wanted to change the culture. We needed to find players that fit the program and fit this university. Since then, we've had one of the highest team GPAs on campus, which is something I'm very proud of. The guys have been very, very successful in the classroom. Many of them have since graduated and gone on to jobs in the business field or grad school, and some of them have turned professional and pursuing their dreams of being a pro tennis player. So, and then, we've been fortunate to bring a couple conference championships back to the Hilltop, and that's something that we hadn't done in, just under 2 decades. And now, the goalposts have been moved again with a shift in the conference. But this is something we're truly excited for and really looking forward to it as it starts at the end of February. So, look, the hunger and drive are there, and we're looking forward to each and every season and each and every day.
What made you switch? You said you were recruiting a lot in your backyard for a couple of years. What made you switch to also now pulling guys like Gogo and Ofek? Yes, thank you. Shimmy.
I think recruiting, again, you've got to find players that make sense.
Yeah.
I think it's easy to find someone who looks good on paper. Their ranking is very high. But I think you got to pull back the velvet curtains, and you've got to understand the why. You've got to understand maybe a lot more in depth as to what they're trying to achieve. And, I think having great family values, great character, great, some fundamental pillars are pivotal. And I think that those are things that you can't just find on a recruiting bio. You've really got to get to know them, their parents, their family, their coaches, the people around them. Because I also think you're recruiting the parents. Yeah. Just like in a marriage, you're marrying in with the in-laws and a whole nother family. Recruiting is the exact same way. So I think we've been very specific to be able to find and spend the time. Recruiting internationally is not easy because. Again, for a while, my rule of thumb is if I couldn't take a Southwest flight to you, it may not work out. But I really do invest in traveling and meeting with the players and the coaches and getting to know them during practice and competition. And again, I think that's another thing is seeing recruits in a practice day-to-day environment. When they're in a competition mode at a tournament, that's 10% of the year. Yeah. And to see them on a day-to-day basis, what do they do with the other 300 days a year, I think is much more telling and much more informative than just, the national championship when everybody's on them, all the eyes, and they're on their best behavior. And again, it's not about, we all have our bad days, but, I think we want to understand, are these things that you can work through together? And just like I have my bad days, relationships are not just 50-50. Some days I can give more and it's 70-30, but some days I need others, my staff, my players, to give more, and then, it's 30-70 or 40-60. Yeah. So, I think it's a partnership that we've got to work on together.
Wow. Gotcha. Well put. Well put.
And especially for the international players or players that are coming from, far places in the country, especially ones that have never been to the U.S. before and are just moving here, I'm sure to some degree homesickness and being away from family can be tough for them. How do you help them kind of work through that and feel at home?
Right. It's such a big thing. I mean, it's really a transitional culture shock. Mm-hmm. I think Gogo, who you guys spoke with earlier, has transitioned very seamlessly. And I think there's a combination of reasons why he took a recruiting trip here. So he flew 17 hours to arrive at DFW and spent a couple days here in the summer. And I think that was really insightful and helpful for him. Ofek was a little bit different situation. His recruiting process, we had a much truncated timeline. So he actually wasn't able to come visit. And it was just kind of, because of the timeline, it didn't really quite work out. But on the flip side, I also have flown to Europe to meet with Gogo several times and his family, to sit down and break bread, to sit down and have a conversation, to be in their living room and discuss what his goals are, aspirations are. These are things that must be done. And then Ofek and I, a lot of it was much more virtual with Zoom and FaceTime. But again, he was coming from a situation. He's one of 5 siblings. There's so much turmoil in his home country of Israel that, there's been some challenges. And while he's homesick, I know he's also very excited and passionate and grateful for the opportunity he has now in a new, hopefully what will become his second home. But again, they all go through their different transitional phases, but also the domestic kids. I mean, there's times where they've been homesick. Just because you're from California or Florida, I mean, it's still a flight away. Yeah. But I mean, it's being away from mom and dad and your siblings and your dog and your own bed. I mean, home cooked meal and laundry's taken care of. I mean, these are things that do take an adjustment. So I think the transitional phase pertains to everybody. And I think for me, oftentimes each year, I do emphasize and spend a little bit more time with the freshmen to try to really make sure that they get off to the right foot, hoping that by the time they're, sophomores and juniors, that should be hopefully a well-oiled machine, if I've done my part. But again, I think you need to help the guys and the student athletes in different ways. And some of it is tennis related and some of it is not. So, it's on us to provide this experience and some life skills.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I know that earlier, moving back into like coaching specifically in your experience, I know you mentioned not feeling like you have a ton of talent, but we did want to give you a shout out for winning AAC Coach of the Year 2 years in a row. How is that? I'm sure you're going to give a lot of credit to the other people that help, which of course makes sense, but what was that like for you to for the success for the team, but then also for yourself?
For the team, I think first off, I was super happy and proud for the guys. I think to see the hard work that they put out, I think the 2020 season, we had really started to kind of creep through and start to hit our stride. We got our first ranked win, we got our first big road win, conference wins, and then COVID hit.
Right.
So, that kind of put a screeching halt to it because I really felt we had some momentum. 2019, which was my first spring season, talk about a learning experience. We lost. There were weekends, I think we lost 3 matches in 3 days. So, but to see the guys and, you sit in their living room and recruit them and then they start to perform and gel and be stronger as a collective whole has been so rewarding. And then the conference championship in 22, that was, I think, a culmination of really targeting a lot of the right players, but also for the community. We had targeted, I think our starting lineup was 5 out of 6 were Americans, if I remember correctly, maybe 6 out of 6. But we had done it a different way. Guys like Caleb and Adam and Liam who kind of stuck through us through the really challenging times. Huntley and Julian were 2 of my first recruits, and they had been with me for both of them for 5 years. And to see their own personal growth and development since they started and entered as freshmen was phenomenal. And I think the other exciting part to really appreciate was the community. The number of SMU alums and former players and members of the SMU community who reached out, not just athletic department, but also on campus, professors and people in the business school. I mean, it just felt everyone was able to celebrate together. And, and that was a really remarkable feeling. And I think that bus ride back from winning the first conference championship was just, everyone was pretty much on cloud 9 and they've earned it.
Yeah.
And then the following season was a whole nother different tale. Talk about a tale of 2 seasons. The following year, we were such underdogs. We had taken a couple tough ones early, and honestly, if we didn't win the conference tournament, I don't think we would have made the tournament. We actually probably would have been the first team out, and we knew we were kind of on the bubble, and we sort of peaked at the right time, and everyone just sort of gelled together, and that one was really special in 2023 because the girls also won it.
Yeah,
we actually won it on the same day, or back-to-back days, which one of the coolest things.
That's special.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So Coach Navolo, I remember we had just won the semis, and then the girls' finals was about to start. So my goal was to feed the guys, and we're like feeding the guys at Chipotle, and next thing you know, we're like, we got to race back. The girls are about to, maybe get this over the finish line. And so we all raced back and got to celebrate and see the last 25 minutes of the match. And that was one of the coolest things, was the guys and girls celebrating together.
That's awesome. That's so
Wow.
cool.
Yeah.
So in this new age of kind of transfer portal, NIL, it seems like coaches have to not only recruit new players to come in, but also to some degree recruit their own players to stay.
Yeah.
Play defense.
What has been your experience with that?
Well, I think you guys both mentioned some good things. Recruiting your current players, absolutely. That's actually something on the forefront of my mind every single day. The defense comment, I actually try to be proactive and try to reiterate to the guys why I recruit them every single day. So in my 20 plus years of coaching, I've actually, I believe, only had 3 players transfer away from me, and a lot of them were kind of a mutual reasoning and thinking in the best interest of the player. So, and I think that's hopefully a positive testament. But at the same time, with the transfer portal and the changing landscape of college athletics, yes, we do need to be prepared to evolve. And does that transfer rate continue to uphold? I don't know. But, right now, yes, I do try to recruit my current guys every single day and reiterate to them why I brought them here in the first place, why I continue to want them here, and what we're trying to accomplish as a collective whole.
Yeah. And kind of along those lines, like, since we finished so strong in the AAC, and now that we're in the ACC, obviously, how do you think that you guys can carry that momentum that you talked about, as well as what do you think this switch means for the future of SMU men's tennis in general, just being in a better conference?
Yeah, well, I think along those lines, we actually had a really challenging end of 2024. We actually finished in the American Conference losing our last 3 matches, last regular season match, first round of the conference tournament, and then the first round of the NCAAs. And that was something that really kind of stuck with me for the remainder of the summer and off season, and it really boiled in the guys as well. And I think it was over the course of the 6-7 years that I've been here, you go from these underdog every single day, those first couple seasons, and then you go from the hunter to the huntee, again when all the pressure's on you,
Right.
And then going into the last year's conference tournament, we were the 2-time defending champs.
Target on the back.
Talk about target on the back. I mean, it was like us against the world.
Yeah.
And I think it was a really good learning experience to feel what that was like, and everyone wanted to, was gunning for us.
Right.
Yeah.
So, they came out with tremendous energy, and every time we were on the road, it was just, it was pretty difficult.
Yeah.
So while we did have some success and a couple conference championship, last year was tough.
Yeah.
But I think we learned so much from it. And, again, we had a fairly older group that I don't think we underestimated anybody, but I think, maybe some thought it would come easy.
Gotcha.
But, I've always been told by some great athletes that, getting to number 1 or getting to the top is so hard, but staying at the top is even harder.
Right.
And I think that was something that we really learned and experienced. But again, I think we took away a lot, and coming in and now, some new faces. We've been able to, a lot of the guys who have been with us and been the staple of our lineups the last 4 or 5 years have all graduated, as well as kind of the COVID 5th years. So that's kind of behind us as well.
Yeah.
So, I think this season is a great opportunity for a fresh start, a new conference, some new faces, and it's been fun.
Yeah. And speaking of like, you talking about guys moving on, I know you mentioned earlier you've had some players that have gone on to be pros. What is that like as a coach, getting to see like one of your guys like fulfill his dream of going pro?
It's rewarding, but also, you're so happy for them, you're proud of them. But, coaching never ends. I think you're constantly a resource for them. You're constantly a source for them. Nothing is more satisfying than getting invited to their wedding, being there for the birth of their child, or when they get to start a family.
That's awesome.
It really does kind of come full circle to be at their wedding and to be able to share that with their teammates and former players. and it's almost becomes a little bit of like a reunion.
Yeah.
But no, look, I think coaching never ends. Just like potentially parenting and other forms of development. But when they still call and tell you that their college years was some of the best experiences that they've ever had, those are some of the most incredible feedback, and I'll take those over the trophies any day.
That's awesome.
So you gonna go to Jerry's wedding?
I think I'm invited.
Gonna put him on the spot there, Yonnic.
I believe I'm invited,
hope
but
so.
I haven't gotten an invitation.
Do you
yet.
need me to go talk to him? Because I can go talk to him after this.
That'd be amazing. I assume I'm sitting at the sweetheart table with him.
That's what I was thinking. Between him and
correct.
Right.
Again, but when I get dumped at table 94, this conversation is going to go very differently. So
I'll go talk with him. I'll make sure he gets you a good seat.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd like the steak dish, not the chicken dish.
Yeah. Sometimes they try to stick that chicken dish on you.
Yeah. No, please. I'm going to get the kids' meal for sure. Watch.
That's funny.
How do you? Is there? We asked the Go and Jerry about this. Is there any kind of rival that you kind of see in the ACC formulating, or not yet at this point, being right in year one?
I think they're all going to be pretty exciting. I think there's going to be a lot of new cities that we're going to go to. I've been able to see a lot of campuses, a lot of schools, a lot of facilities, but there's a lot I haven't been to. So I'm looking forward to my first trip to NC State, and my first trip to Florida State, and my first trip to some other schools that I haven't had the opportunity to go to. Rivalry-wise, I think it's always exciting to start with some of the schools in your backyard and in the state of Texas. These guys are very good teams. There's the bar is raised very high, but whenever you play a Baylor, a Texas, a TCU, an A&M, Texas Tech, Rice, it's special. There's a long-standing history between SMU and Rice. There's a lot of synergy. There's a lot of common, overlap with Houston, Dallas communities and alums. So that's always a special one. TCU is just 35 minutes down the road. Those guys are the, defending NCAA champions. But again, I think that's a very strong product that we put out. Coach Roditi and I really make a cautious effort to joint promote. And it's really about packing the house, putting butts in seats, and just, hey, you're a TCU fan? Fine, come on out. You're an SMU fan? Come on out to the match. You don't know anything about tennis? That's also okay. Come out and just root for your team. Yeah. And I think the crowds have shown, and same thing when we play the other schools. So I think there's going to be a lot of exciting matches. I think we're also going to have the target on our back. I think the veteran ACC teams are going to want to try to put us where we belong, and I think the new ones, us, Cal, and Stanford, are going to want to try to make some noise. So we're looking forward to the challenge, but a lot of incredible matches coming up. Our home schedule this year has been phenomenal. So, so many great matches, and we've got a lot more on the schedule.
That's awesome. Yeah, being new kid on the block is sometimes, as you said, they kind of gun for you a little bit.
That's for sure.
Yeah, and when we were talking to the guys, we talked about how Go-Go got to play in the Dallas Open. What is that like, coaching your players to, because they're in college, but they're also like maybe sometimes playing pro tournaments. Like how do you coach them to kind of adjust to that different like step?
From the tennis component, it should be fairly similar. I think whether it's the juniors to the college to the pros. The tennis aspect, I think, is pretty similar. It's just the proficiency level. College guys do it a little bit better, a little bit more established than the juniors. But then the pros just do it, they're so good at the fundamentals that they do it until they can't get it wrong. And I think these are some of the simple concepts. A lot of the transitional conversations, especially at that next level, is the off court. It's all the little details, the sleep you get, your diet, your exercise, you're taking care of the body. And nowadays, those pros, they have no weaknesses, which is, I think, is something scary, because it's just, how do you beat a Yonnic Sinner? How do you beat Alcaraz? How do you beat these guys? Because they're so good at everything.
Yeah.
But along those lines with the Dallas Open, having it right here in our home facility, 22, 23, and 24 was probably one of the most special weeks of the calendar, and something that I'll never forget. It was just such a remarkable experience for our players and our coaching staff to have such an ATP established event right here at our facility. Since then, obviously, it's been upgraded to a bigger event, and it's been just a special experience at the Star. And the Cowboys family and staff have done a remarkable job working with the Dallas Open. But again, I think as the tournament has grown, the team has gotten better, and as the team has improved, the Dallas Open got stronger. And they've been so supportive of college tennis. They really believe in college tennis. They really believe in development. They really believe in giving back. And for so many of our players to have had opportunities the last couple years, Jerry didn't play this year, but he played last year. Gogo got a chance, and Gogo didn't know he was going to play until, less than 12 hours before he played.
Wow.
So he got in at really the 11th hour on that Friday night of sign-in. And then he played Saturday at 2 p.m.
Wow.
What happened to open that spot for him? Did somebody just
cancel? The way the sign-in works is there's so many tournaments, simultaneous events, and sometimes players choose to pick another event. Sometimes they choose not to travel to that city because they don't think they're going to get in, or they've chosen another schedule opportunity. And the way the cut line moves for the sign-in kind of just started to climb. So what you can do is then you can sign in as an on-site alternate. And Gogo currently has points, so he's about, I believe, 1,200 in the world as an amateur. So he has a couple points. Eric is about 900 or 1,000. Trevor is about 650 ATP. And so them all having a professional ranking as an amateur, gives them these opportunities. And so Eric and Jerry signed in on that Friday thinking, hey, we'll shoot our shot, and we have nothing to lose. And both of them got in. And then Trevor obviously got the main draw opportunity and played a good friend of his and ours that we all know so well in Ethan Quinn. So, I think that was something that we all really cherished, and the experience for all of them. It was great. The guys all wanted to be there. The guys all wanted to support each other. When Jerry got the chance last year, as well as Adam and our doubles team of Huntley and Julian. I mean, it's incredible, because I think they get a glimpse as to the life that they're hoping to lead one day.
Yeah,
I know Gogo wants to play pro tennis one day. So does Trevor, and so does Eric, and I think they all have that real aspiration deep in their heart to give it their all. So it is just something that you can't experience, and the opportunities to have we're so grateful to the Dallas Open and GF Sports for really giving the guys a shot.
That's awesome. And so I saw that you were pretty heavily involved in putting on the Dallas Open when it was here. What were you involved in with that? Kind of what got you into that, and how was that experience for you?
With a facility as we have here, to find ways to engage with the community and interact with your surrounding, and to bring value, and to just share the doors, open your doors to others, I think is part of the job description. Mm-hmm. So, we've had junior tournaments here. We've had, ladies leagues. We've had the ITF Adaptive Sports International Championship, which is awesome. One of the most inspiring events. Players from around the world with, maybe a prosthetic leg, or, different types of disabilities, who still share the love of the game, and seeing them play tennis with able bodies or each other is just so rewarding, because it does show the game of tennis. Dallas Open was very similar. I think that was an opportunity to showcase SMU, showcase the city of Dallas. Dallas is just an incredible sports town, with the Cowboys, with the Mavs, with the Stars. I mean, you keep going, and you keep naming it. And golf, the PGA headquarters is now here, and it just feels like it is really a hub. And being so geographically located, it's easy to get to. We can almost get anywhere in the world from DFW or Dallas Love, and vice versa. People can get to Dallas pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. So having the Dallas Open here was, I think, such a natural progression. Myself, John Isner was a huge proponent as well, and then the tournament director, Peter Lebedevs. We met in December 2020, kind of towards the end of COVID, and we just felt and saw a vision to bring that international competition to town. So my role, look, my first and foremost role is the coach of the team. I am sort of, I think, the de facto concierge, custodial. I played so many different roles to just try to help out, because these things, events take an army and take an entire village. And I would just play any role that would need to be. It could be as simple as moving pallets of water from the truck to the tennis court. My guys were here and got a glimpse as to what they were doing. But I think it's been such a fun ride to see the Dallas Open from conception to where it is now, at the Star with 5,000 people watching.
That's awesome.
Wow.
I kind of want to ask you a question going back to like coaching and tennis specifically. I know you talked about your role and building relationships with the players. Being somebody who played tennis in high school, not at all a pro, obviously not very good, but I know for me, like the hardest part for me was mentally, like just getting in your own head because you're the only one out there. How do you help your players with the mental aspect? Because I know that part can be very challenging, because you can be as good as you want, but if you lose your head, if you're angry, it's different things like that, you can lose any match. So how do you help your players with the mental aspect of the game? Because that's huge too.
I love having on-court coaching. I think with a team environment, that college tennis aspect, being able to coach your players and being in the trenches with them is actually, I think, one of the most enjoyable parts, because you win and lose with them. I may not be the one with the racket in my hand hitting the ball, but you're like a caddy for a golfer. You're like the cut man for a boxer. You're there in the trenches with them.
Right. And
on the changeovers, some conversations are, when they're in the right headspace and everything's clicking and they're in the, quote unquote, the zone, my job is to get out of their way and just let them do their job and let them stay in the zone.
Yeah.
When things aren't going well and there's, you're dealing with some adversity and the other guy and their opponent is doing really well, that's when you have to problem solve together. And having that ability to have feedback with your guys, hey, coach, what about this or what about that? And then I'll make suggestions. Hey, try this. And there are times my suggestions work, and there's sometimes my suggestions crash and burn. And they look at me, and I'm like, hey, well, we at least, when you throw enough stuff on the wall, hopefully something's going to stick at some point.
Right.
But I think that's part of the college tennis and the competition aspect that I really enjoy with the guys, is because you're in the trenches, and then you walk on the court together with a game plan and a scouting report and some thoughts, and then you walk off the court hand in hand, either with the victory or, if you take a loss, then, we learn from it and we go back to the drawing board, and then you get ready for the next match.
Sweet. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's special.
So are you a bit of a football fan?
I enjoy sports as sports.
Okay.
I love, watching football. I love basketball. I love golf. I love so many sports. I probably don't know all the stats on the top of my head.
Yeah.
But for sure, one thing I've tried to do is attend practices of my other teams on campus. The other teams on campus. So I'll check with the basketball coach or the soccer coach. Hey, can I be a fly on the wall and just check it out? And I think it's always fun to learn, and for my own personal growth, to see how other coaches handle their practices. But I love watching the football team. I love watching sports.
What have you learned seeing other coaches from other sports do their thing? How does that apply to your coaching for the tennis team?
Rhett and I were heading to an event in California, and I remember him and I having a chance to just converse, just him and I. And I asked him, one of my first things was, how do you manage your entire staff? Not alone 120 football players, but he must have a staff of 50. I don't know, 10, 15 coaches and other, scouts, coordinators, videos, equipment. How do you manage that? And to hear his vision and perspective on these different things was great. And we got to have a conversation. We're about the same age, and so to be able to just chat with another coach, even though the game is a little different, but I think the concepts of what we do and the pathway of what we do is the same. So, Rhett and I had some great conversations. Chris Parra and I, we collaborate all the time as to how to get the most out of our players, how to navigate these individual sports, golf and tennis. I think there's some similarities. Huddy with soccer and Toyel with women's basketball and Sam with volleyball. I mean, I think we all really lean on each other, everything from recruiting. How do we out-recruit this school? How do we do that? How can we do this better? And I think it's also borrowing ideas. Sometimes imitation is the best form of flattery. So, Sam's had some great ideas that she's implemented with her volleyball team, and I borrowed a couple, and I've done the same thing with a few other coaches. And, if they've borrowed a few ideas from me, great. I think collaborative efforts is one of the best things we can do, because sometimes you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Let's just borrow from other sports.
Yeah. The reason I ask is we saw that you went to the playoff game in Penn State.
That was an experience I'll never forget. So yes, I did travel to Penn State for that game. Calendar-wise, it worked out. December for me is probably a little on the quieter side. I don't get that much downtime, so December for me was quiet. My wife was out of town for work, and I kind of winged the whole trip. The game was Saturday at noon. Thursday afternoon, I had no way to get there. I had no ticket. I had no hotel.
Oh my God!
I had nothing. And I just knew that, one way, shape, or form, I'll figure this out, and it was actually kind of an adventure. I ended up hopping on the charter flight with the band and Cheer and Palm, which was super kind of them. They ended up having, one or two open seats. And so I walked on there with no bags. Everything I brought, I wore, because that was probably one of the colder environments I've been in. So everything I brought, I just wore. Yeah, it was that simple.
So that tennis jacket with the college football playoff logo on it, that is so. How did you get that?
So the jacket I've had, it was actually given to me by the predecessor, my previous coach, who's retired. And then the CFP it's actually a sticker patch.
Oh, okay.
So someone I can't even remember was handing them out to the football team and the staff, and had one, and they were like, "Do you want one?" I'm like, "Sure, why not?" And I've actually gotten a lot of comments about the jacket.
That's so cool.
The patch was the sticker, but truly an amazing experience for me to be there, but more importantly to support the football team and SMU and. In such an amazing experience to be with the CFP, and I know Red and the boys have huge aspirations to get back to that experience. But I sat with a couple of my former players were there, so
awesome.
they all kind of ended up there for somehow, and we didn't know that until the morning of, and so we all ended up sitting together, and then a couple other staff members and we had this tiny little SMU section surrounded by 100,000 Nitty Lions, and some fans were very welcoming. And then some fans had some not nice words to say and told me to go back to Dallas and go back to Texas. And then the other part, I remember hearing logistically, they were like, "Oh, we got the band on the travel there." They were telling us, "Oh, the band got a prime location in the stadium."
No, they did not.
That's what we were told.
That's a lie.
And then come game day, bringing out the binoculars to find them was what we needed to do. And so, again, I think it was an incredible experience, and one of the few times I've been on a road football game, and I'll hopefully be able to have the chance to go back to some more. But, yeah, it was fun.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
And then kind of wrapping up here, in your eyes, what does the future look like for SMU men's tennis? And then also, give you a chance to maybe give your recruiting pitch to getting more. I know you mentioned getting butts and seats. What would be your recruiting pitch to why people should come watch y'all play? What can they expect when they watch your guys play?
Starting with the first question, our team, I think the next couple years will be very exciting to be able to continue to push the envelope, strive to be a better team in all aspects, and I think the results will show on its own. So. I'm proud of that, and I know the work we do on court. We're developing and raising tremendous young men and student athletes. From a recruiting pitch to watch a college match, I think it's one of the best sporting events you can attend. And the reason why is there's so many matches around the country. There's going to be in your backyard, no matter where you are. I would say 98% of the time it's free admission, with the exception of maybe the National Indoor Championship as well as the NCAAs and a couple other marquee matches. But for the most part, you're going to experience one of the most exciting collegiate events you can attend. There's so much action on 3 doubles courts and 6 singles courts that you're always cheering for something. You know, on any given moment, court 1 you're losing, court 2 you're winning, court 3 you're even, court 4 you're up, court 5 you're down, court 6 is fighting tooth and nail, and you're always cheering for something and rooting for something. And I think that's, tennis often has that misconception of this, quiet, country club clap and all that. And I think there are times it is, but I think from a college viewing perspective, it's one of the most exciting because the energy in the building is so vibrant, and you don't really need to know and understand college to be able to appreciate these athletes. They're doing something, very demanding mentally. They're doing one of the most technically advanced games, and there's also a huge tactical component. So to be able to manage all 3 at the same time in a pressure-packed moment, and I think the communication between court and court, you see guys running back and forth, coaches are running back and forth, and I think that energy is pretty contagious. So come out to really a free event, find your local university, find your local school, whether it's D1, D2, D3, JUCO, or NAIA, and really go support that and have a glimpse. And if your child or you're playing high school tennis now and you have aspirations to play college one day, you have to go watch. You need to see what you're striving for, because I think a lot of times recruits, they play tennis, but they've never been to a college match. Right. And you need to know what you're shooting for. And our guys, they attend pro matches and pro tournaments because they need to see what the level that they're trying to get to.
Right.
So come on out. It's a blast. And especially in the spring, I mean, on any given day, there's probably 50, 40 college matches going on around the country, especially Thursday through Monday.
Sweet.
That's great. And where can people find you on social media if they want to follow?
I'm fairly active, so on X, on Instagram, TikTok, the usual. It's an easy form to get a hold of, but most of it is either Grant Chen or Grant_Chen. So fairly active out there. I think it's important to stay engaged with the community, and it's obviously a natural way for me to communicate with a lot of recruits, because that's the platform they simply are on. Enjoy, and our SMU M Tennis account on Instagram and also on X is fairly active, and I think it's the best way to be able to communicate with your fans and your family and people who want to be there but can't physically be there, but still want to stay in tune with what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, Coach, we really appreciate you being on with us.
Thanks so much.
We had a
Thanks,
great
Coach.
time.
No, thank you. This has been a blast, and really a joy to spend the Saturday morning with you.
Yeah, us too. We love learning about the tennis team, and we're excited for y'all where y'all are headed.
We'll see you guys soon.
That's right.
Thank you.
All right.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for your time, and thank you guys for watching. And so if you'll just like, comment, subscribe, and then go follow us on Instagram as well. Thank you so much for listening to the Mustang Mood Podcast, and pony up.
Pony up.
Boom.